after the last reset, after the mud flood. They chopped the trees down and used to dance on the tree's stump. They took dancing on the grave to a whole nother level. I've never seen this type of disrespect in my life. These men had no manners or respect for nature. Total disrespect, total disregard. Chopping through trees just to get through with the horse and wagon. The damage that these men have done cannot be reversed. People hugging the trees, dancing, kissing. Brother, what have you done? Where do they come up with these ideas? It's sinister. Mother Earth is crying.
So remember 3i Atlas, which turned out to be a nothing burger at the end of the year? Well, guess what? They're actually hiding something from us. This is John Greenwald Jr., a UFO researcher who got in contact with the CIA to have them disclose information about 3i Atlas. Now, due to the Freedom of Information Act, the government's supposed to disclose to the public about what they're doing, their whereabouts on certain subjects, etc. And this is their response to John. And I quote, "We completed a thorough review of your request and determined that in accordance with Section 3.6a of Executive Order 13526, the CIA can neither confirm nor deny the existence or non-existence of records responsive to your request." Now, it goes on to say that this information is now classified due to the CIA Act of 1947 and the National Security Act of 1949. So therefore, your request is denied. Okay, so at this point, we should all be very, very suspicious, because not knowing what this thing is one thing, but now there may be infighting within the community about disclosure.
There are people that are controlling this information, and there does seem to be, even outside of the purview of, I think, sometimes our own secretaries who have the best intentions on declassifying this stuff, there is this internal intelligence battle on this.
Internal intelligence battle sounds very promising, doesn't it? And of course, it's always in the movies, because there's a movie coming out this summer called Disclosure Day. So it really makes you wonder, are we going to get our own Disclosure Day? Or maybe not, because they're hiding it. Who knows? Make sure you guys hit up my YouTube, The Maverick Approach, but let me know what you guys think about all this down below.
I mean, you've got to get rid of that fear, because then naturally they're going to see something awful, because that's what they've been promised. But you don't stay there. What? Yeah, because there are people that write these kind of things, but I've done enough cases and they've told me time and time again, it doesn't happen. But if you're expecting it, anything you believe is real.
Who are the Murs, M-U-U-R-S, or the Moorish Americans? I'm going to be reading from One World, One America, Tartarians and Moors by James W. Lee. The Moors, or the Moorish Americans, are the people who have been described, reclassified, and identified as so-called Black, Negro, Colored, West Indians, Latinos, Black Indians, Aboriginals, Indigenous, Autochthonous, Pre-Adamites, Paleo, First Nation, First People, Afro-American, African-American, Native Americans, and Amerindians. You may have heard of a Moor king of the Orient. Well, America was once known as the Orient, aka the West Indies, or India, so Columbus knew exactly where he was going. The first indigenous tribe on Earth are the Murs, M-U-U-R-S, from America, also known as Moroccans. The Morocco in North Africa wasn't established until 1956. Therefore, the Morocco that first recognized the U.S. in 1777 as a nation couldn't have been the Morocco that was established in North Africa in 1956, because the 1956 Morocco was not around in 1777. The Morocco that it is referring to is Al Morocco, A-L-Morocco, which means the farthest most west. North America is a continent that is the farthest most west. Al Morocco, the West, is the ancient name for America. There were many names for America because you have to remember that America is ancient. America is prehistoric. And so over time, the names have changed, and the names of the people that inhabited the Americas has also changed.
I just found another series of books from 1880, Bryan's Popular History of the United States. There's 4 volumes. Proof in the pudding, bitch. And I grabbed volume 2 because it specifically has the witch hunts in Salem and the Boston Puritans. Also, show me! Yeah, these books go into a lot more detail, and there's 4 of them. So yeah, here we go.
If you want to have an out-of-body experience, then follow the instructions that Stranger Things is giving you. The reason why Eleven goes into a salt water bath because this is just one method to dissolve the senses of the nervous system. When you dissolve the body and no longer feel the body by remaining very still, and you dissolve the mind, you enter a trance. You know that moment just before you drift off to sleep? You're half awake and half asleep. This is what you call a trance, and when you dissolve the mind and body, you connect with pure awareness, and this allows you to have an out-of-body experience, a lucid dream, or even astral projection into an astral realm.
You want to know something? I'll give you a quote. We're a third world country now. You want to know why? I'm an expert. I've been to them. I spent 17 months in Southeast Asia while the draft dodger was playing golf, right? You know how I know we're a third world country? Because in third world countries, they have the military doing their police work in the cities when you walk around. I was in the Philippines the day Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law and went under dictatorship. We went from nobody to a guy with a machine gun on every corner. That's what happens in a dictatorship. In comes the military. That's what's happening here. And people better wake up to it. You want to read something? Then read your history of Germany and start comparing the tactics of what happened in 1930s Germany to what's happening here. Read history. You learn from history. Anytime you have the loss of life that needlessly happens, that's tragedy. And what occurred yesterday did not have to happen.
The whole op is a linguistic op. There's a particular sacrifice in Greece, and it was an animal sacrifice, and there's all these aspects to it. You would do an invocation, you do an ablution, then you actually sacrifice an animal. The begins with an invocation. The invocation was event 201. Next thing was the ablution. What's the first thing you heard? Wash your hands. But it wasn't like wash your hands with pure water. You're washing your hands with Purell, which is actually this chemical crap that makes you sicker. The next stage, the processional. The procession, you would bring the sacrificial animal through the streets. What were we told to do? Well, we can't go outside. We were locked down. The sacrifice itself is the death of George Floyd. In Greece, you would take the best animal and you would garland it and dress it and what have you before you elevate it up to a sacrifice for the divine. George Floyd, of course, he was a criminal. So what did they do? They dressed him up into this superhero later and gave him angelic wings and, you know, everything like that. So that's how this sacrifice, which was this thing that held the culture together, was inverted and then turned into the thing to rip the culture apart.
See, black folks know why they're here. Native peoples know why they're here and how they got here. A lot of Asian folk know, particularly if they're Chinese American, they know they got here because their ancestors were brought over to work on the railroads by the railroad barons who didn't care if thousands of them died laying track 19, 20 hours a day. But for those of us who are from Europe, we have this fiction that we've told, and we believe it, even though there's no truth to it. You know what the fiction is? It's 2 parts. Number one, we say things like, with regard to Mexicans coming over the border, with regard to immigrants coming over, but only that border. That's the only one we care about, right? The southern border. I find that interesting. We're not flipping out about Canada, right? We don't have any of the Minutemen or the anti-immigrant groups sitting off the coast of Nova Scotia with a gun and a scope trying to like pick off the sneaky Canadians that are trying to sneak in here for our superior healthcare system. which after all would be a pretty stupid thing to do. But in any event, we only care about that one border, forgetting for a minute that that border was created at the end of a war that was started on false pretense by this country, after which we jacked half of their country. And you weren't taught that in school either, because our history books aren't interested in telling the truth. They tell this very patriotic history that has no relationship to the fact. So that border is artificial. Mexican folk who are coming here, documented or not, let's be clear, are coming home. Their families were here before our families were here in almost every instance. But we forget that, and then we say things like, well, I don't mind them coming. I just want them to come legally like my people did. The hell does that even mean? Come legally? There was no law to break when our people came. The fact that we didn't break a law that didn't even exist, you don't get cookies for that. You don't get like a pat on the back and a gold star because your great whatever was law abiding when there was no law that he could have violated, even if he wanted to. But we've told this lie that we came for these upstanding principles. So we'll say things like, well, you know, our people came for liberty and freedom, democracy. These people are just coming for stuff. They're just coming for jobs. They're just coming for health care. They're just coming for stuff. We came for high-minded principle, right? Because we believe that. What kind of third-grade version of American history is that, right? Like when Donald Trump says, well, Mexico's not sending their best. What the hell, you think Europe sent their best? Europe, no, our people were the losers of Europe. I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm just telling you the truth. Like, our people were the losers of Europe. The winners didn't get on the boat. You understand what I'm saying? The winners didn't leave. Why the hell would you leave if you were winning? Only the losers left because they had no choice. They were dying. They were starving. They couldn't support their families. A lot of them were convicts who were sold into indentured servitude to work for rich European people. They were barely above the level of a slave themselves. The idea that we had these we didn't believe in liberty and freedom. And we know that because once we got to the colonies, we set up the opposite of liberty.
The Civil War was not the North versus the South fighting about slavery. The truth is, it was the Indian Wars. It was a campaign to erase the copper-colored indigenous Americans from their own land. We were not brought here. We were already here. They reclassified us through paper genocide, changed our names, stole our nations, stole our everything, stole our land, language, culture, religion, our identity. And the so-called slave uprisings were actually our people defending our ancestral land.
I don't care what the doctors say, it's very, very real. That I've had enough proof of it in my work, I know it's very real. But in most of the near-death experiences, the person either going through a tunnel or they're going out of their body, they are going toward a huge light. And they never reach that light. They usually are turned back before they get to that light. Usually there's somebody there who says, are you sure you want to go? You know, you have a choice, but maybe it'd be better if you go back. You know, your family needs you. Things like that. But sometimes there's someone there to give you a choice if you want to return or do you really want to go on. It's your decision. But whenever they decide to go back, they never go all the way to that bright light. I found out what that bright light is. This is why they don't actually die, because they don't go all the way. The bright light is a huge energy source. You may even want to call it God if you want to, but it's a powerful energy source. And when you actually do leave your body and die, you go through that light. And when you go through that light, the silver cord is severed at that time. You're all attached with a silver cord, our spirit, which is the real you, and the body the entire time you're alive. Because every night you go out of your body.
All right, racist. Let's talk about the limits behind the so-called natives who claim to be the original. Why hasn't their culture evolved? Why does it replicate something someone's already done and innovated already? And the delusion to claim that Black American Indians took something from anyone, and I mean any culture, is insanity. They are the architects of culture. Not only are the true Americans the first to do it, they are the best at whatever they decide to curate. Let's take a simple surface level dive of the lack of creative ability of the Siberians. Watch this performance. These moves are being presented as authentic, traditional, and of original culture. There's been no culture to be more delusional than the Siberians. Watch this. This is the rhythm, the history, the undeniable innovation. The difference is clear. The native dances are the replica. Black American Indians are the blueprint. Let's ask the real question the Siberians can't answer. Why hasn't the Native American culture evolved? Why is their creative output just casinos, filthy reservations, and addiction problems? Why does something that they call theirs look suspiciously like something Black Americans were doing decades ago? It's because you cannot innovate from a void. Real culture is a living, breathing evolution. Stealing Black Americans' identity is like taking a Polaroid of a masterpiece and then calling yourself the painter. You could always work with the Black Americans and build a community instead of pretending like they weren't the originals. Be smart, change the course of history, and just tell the truth. Don't be cowards.
When it comes to the capturing of Nicolas Maduro, Donald Trump is setting the stage for World War III, which is going to be the precursor to a cybernetic warfare, because Venezuela, they're strategic allies with Iran, China, and Russia. Now, the organization of the World Economic Forum talks about the destabilization process of the power grid being attacked by Iran, China, and Russia. Now, 2026 is also a 10-year, so how you not know that 2026 is actually a codex that's basically marking the blueprint for the 10 days of darkness. Now, the next 72 hours is going to be very critical for the world because this is a psychological power play to amplify the global energy supply system through the oil. Now, as I've been telling you guys before, the Bible is nothing but a Freemasonic playbook. They talked about the collapse of Canaanite culture because when you go to the book of Ezekiel, it talks about Gog and Magog, which is equated to China and Russia. Now, when you're talking about the power play of the power source of the oil, it talks about the 303 billions of barrels of oil, which is a Freemasonic number of 33. So everything that you see taking place right now is all scripted. Everything is a script that basically is talking about the fall of Canaanite culture because it's connected to the Piscean age of darkness.
Well, if you make the assumption that the human race arose like around the equator and the skin color, dark skin color would be the phenotype, then are you assuming that as people moved outward, there was a mutation, and if you were in the north, it allowed that mutation to live, which is how we got white people?
Yes.
Would that follow?
Yeah. If Nina Jablonski, who spoke in another one of your things, explained this, and she played a role in studying the reason for dark skin, which is if you have lots of intense sunlight, it destroys folic acid, and it turns out folic acid is really important for babies to develop properly, so it's not too good for a population for the babies to not develop properly, so that's why dark skin. Now, as you move north, there's another essential vitamin called vitamin D. There's an intermediate, biochemical intermediate that needs to be then converted by the liver, but that intermediate is formed by UV light going through the skin. If you're near the equator and you have a dark skin, it still gets through enough to get your vitamin D. But now if you go north and it's cold and you wrap up and it's less sun because the sun's coming at an angle now, you will get rickets and have other problems supposedly. So that's thought to be the reason for selection for lighter skin.
What is this kind of temple doing under some guy's farmland?
I've found so many subterranean worlds, temples, caves that are absolutely beyond explanation. This is just a farmer, right? 20 feet up, he's just plowing the fields. Look what lies beneath his farm. This is an article found in a Pennsylvania newspaper describing a temple found in Missouri. We found ourselves in a room hewn out of solid limestone, 35 feet wide, 50 feet long, and 30 feet high. There are 12 columns in the temple. Between the columns on each side of the temple and on each side of the arch are set in the wall blocks of polished gray and black granite. It is undoubtedly one of the greatest curiosities of the age and is attracting the attention of archaeologists. You never hear anything else. The articles go blank.
This person thinks that this is going to go down as one of the greatest finds in history, and then of course it disappears. How did they mysteriously die 2 years later, perhaps?
The deeper you go, the crazier the things they find.
There's a guy by the name of Andrew Kovacs. Andrew Kovac is the executive, one of the executives and the spokesman for Turning Point USA. Now, Kovac, he basically sends a message to a YouTuber, some random YouTuber. I've never heard of him. This is where it gets weird. The guy gets a message. He wasn't supposed to disclose what Andrew said or what he sent to him. He accidentally discloses this message from Andrew, but the fact that he shows all this showing that Erica Kirk, they're trying to figure out her whereabouts on September 8th. And there's reports of her being seen at Fort Huachuca. She sends a picture saying, hey, I couldn't have been there because I'm with my kids. Sends a screenshot. Mind you, we've never seen Erica Kirk's kids. Puts her finger over the kid's face, so we can't see their face. We don't know what the kids look like. She puts her finger over the picture and sends it, and this is what Andrew sent to the random YouTuber. So Fort Huachuca, it's the home, they call this the home of military intelligence. Now, this place, it's a massive military base where they do a lot of training, over 70,000 acres. So I think that the reason she was there is because of a few things. For one, her mom, Lori Fronsvie. So her company, E3 Tech Group, specializes in a very particular type of weaponry. This place, Fort Huachuca, specializes in electrical warfare. I've also looked into it, and this place is greatly known for being the largest unmanned aircraft systems training facility, aka drones. Now, what did I say that Charlie Kirk was killed by?
A fucking drone.
A drone.
I'm done with this shit.
The Tartarians. Tartary, the greatest one-world civilization to be erased from history. I'm reading from One World, One America, Tartarians and Moors by James W. Lee. The Tartarians. The Tartary civilization encompassed most of the world we know today, from Russia to China, to Africa, to India, to Australia, and New Zealand, to the North and South Americas. This has been swept from modern history books and was likely destroyed in the 19th to 20th centuries, along with many of their amazing buildings. There are numerous documents providing that there were also giants among them. The people of Tartary were destroyed by the same advanced technology that controls our weather. There were floods, fires, and earthquakes, and likely they had directed energy weapons, DEW, used against them, and many of their bones are buried under our cities today. Their old world order was a benevolent society where they used sacred geometrical designs, pipe organs, and cotillion bells to help and to heal and to achieve higher consciousness. All of the architecture and technology we know of today was developed by the Tartars. The 18th and 19th centuries were final book burning and removal from historical knowledge of this once great civilization that flourished up until about 100 years ago, the Tartarians. So we ask ourselves, how many billions of people lived in those times that were exterminated, and their legends and their cultures buried and forgotten until just now? Who today is responsible for the actions of their ancestors? And everyone will answer in unison, nothing to do with me. No matter the genetic code, no one takes responsibility. Truth be told, not sold.